not like that man. He's intelligent, but shifty.
Hey there.
Hello, I'm Brett, and you are?
Zachariah.
A pleasure then, Zachariah. Are you a hunting enthusiast, a trapper, specialist in local species? Maybe a strong fellow like you might be a mixture of them all.
Sorry to disappoint you, but I'm none of those things.
Ah, well, my hope got the best of me. I've been looking for someone to aid in my studies. A shame. Sure you're not a hunter, or even someone who'd want to try his hand at it?
Can you tell me what's going on?
Yes, of course, of course. You see, the focus of my study is the planet's fauna, all the insects and animals brought by the settlers that have since mutated, much like our own mutants, if not in a more spectacular way. Now, I've studied the most well-known of the creatures, of course, but I have heard of much more rare specimens, which I would go to any lengths to study. It would offer great insight into the animal mutations. Anyone can admire their beauty, but what we need is to understand how they came to be what they are. We need to study their anatomy, but they are, of course, rather dangerous.
So you need a hunter to find them and bring back your specimens. I might be able to help. What are you after?
Well, there is so much. There's a black mole and a shield toad. Also a locust I've named Locusta tempestatus, or more colorfully, the storm locust. It's been spotted in the tunnels beneath Ophir.
What can you tell me about the storm locust?
Locusta tempestatus? Well, very little but what has been told to me, actually. It is a creature, by all word, that seems to feed on electrical sources. Looks like an ordinary locust, which we know also shares the taste for electricity, but it's much larger. Perhaps its purportedly massive thirst for electricity is simply in proportion to its size? I don't know, but I'm hungry to find out.
What do you know about the black mole, besides the fact that it's black?
Well, its name is somewhat of a misnomer. It isn't really black. Darker than the others for sure, but not black. Its skin, though, seems to sweat venom. Wonderful, isn't it? Imagine. What a wonderful defense.
Yeah, wonderful. Always dreamed of catching poisonous moles.
Isn't it fascinating? A beautiful scientific mystery.
Already expecting the worst, but, why is it called the shield toad?
Those who have had the rare opportunity to see this beautiful creature say its skin is nearly armor-like. In fact, nothing seems to be able to pierce it. No arrows, not even conventional weapons. The hunters take their best shot, but always run away terrified. Delicate little things humans are, but there has to be an explanation for this extraordinary mutation, and I must find it.
Zach, perfect timing. You remember Abby Goodman, friend of mine you helped before?
Yeah, of course. She really your friend, or all just part of the cover you had going on?
No, no, she is. She's a spy for Noctis too, though. She's actually been working on something for me and finally managed to get some info I'd been trying to get.
What information was that?
I spent a part of my life in a rehabilitation camp after my arrest in Ophir. It was the worst time of my existence, and I've always wondered how I'd ended up here. Who had turned us in? We were just a group of street kids. We would steal food here and there, but we weren't dangerous. However, we were arrested and deported to a camp like hardened criminals or terrorists. What happened followed me for many years, until I learned that an important member of the Vori clique was responsible for the deportation of dozens of people. Most of them were innocent, but a nuisance for the mob. I want to find that guy. I want to know if it's he who got us deported. I want to understand why, and make him pay. For me, and my companions, of course, but also for those poor people who hadn't asked for anything.
I understand. That man seems to be a real scumbag. I'll help you find him.
Thank you, Zach.
Could you tell me more about Noctis?
It's a wonderful city when you come from Ophir like me. You can meet people from all corporations, but especially merchants, thieves, and mercenaries. All these people were born outside a caste for the most part. They have a different vision from us of what a city should be like, and you can feel it. For them, a city is above all a place of exchange, of rest after their travels. That's where they find refuge after a hard time. That's where they make serum or lose everything. Noctis breathes way more than Ophir ever will. It is a city where all opinions have a voice. It is a far more creative and cherished city than any other corporate city. Every citizen would be ready to fight for it. Not because we order them to do it, but because it is their refuge. And without it, they wouldn't feel at home anywhere else.
What's in the nearby canyons? Does Noctis use them?
Sure. They're mostly used to navigate from the city to the rest of the world, but also serve as a defensive hardpoint. Any enemy of Noctis would be left vulnerable while going through the layout of the canyons. I've heard that some groups have hideouts there where they store treasures. That's surely a myth. On the other hand, I know that you can find colonial ruins in poor condition there.
Are you okay with Amelia?
She doesn't like me much, does she? That's okay. I mean, I still really admire her talent and her courage, even if she doesn't see how deeply abundance has manipulated her. But I'm not worried. She'll be better off in a city where she's got freedom and people who respect her for who she is, not what she represents. She's strong. She'll be fine.
You've known Phobos for a while.
For some time, yes. But we don't see each other very often. Our respective roles didn't allow us to spend time talking together. He's a wonderful person. He'll free his people, I'm sure of it. He's a forward thinker, Zach. He's intelligent, and even if he suffered a lot because of what normal people like us did to him and his people, he never gave up. He never sank into hatred. He hoped to build their nation. And he's a loyal friend. We are lucky to have him with us.
What do you think of Scott?
I think that he hides his suffering behind his madness. He's a fallen genius, but under the thick skin that is his madness, you can see a unique spirit glowing. He cares a lot about you. I even have the feeling that you're the only one he has. Take care of him. I know that his heart is still with abundance, and that gives me pause, but you can only see the friend in him, almost a father. Let me manage the rest.
You're close to Lucky?
I've known him for a while, yes. Since he managed to break away from his master. He was a real scumbag, you know? The merchants are not all as well-intentioned as Dandolo is. He really had a rough time, and it's made him bitter. But he can be so charming. I like him a lot, even though I wonder whether sometimes he needs a friend more than a fling.
What can you tell me about Dandolo?
He's a complex man, Zach. Not the type to sum up in a few words. He's smart, warm, generous, and completely dedicated to his city. But he's also very manipulative, and he can sometimes be coldly pragmatic. That scares me. I love him like a father, and I don't really want to see him lose himself in his power like many others have.
How the hell did you go from being an artist in Ophir to a spy in Noctis?
Less of a stretch than you think. After all, a good lie, like good art, has to be close to your reality, right? Truth? I was an orphan. Parents did die, and I was on the street and got sucked into a gang. We all got arrested pretty quick and ended up in a rehab camp. Swore I'd die there a couple of times because I wasn't gonna let them brainwash me, and they didn't take too kindly to that. I took the beatings, but got to keep my mind. Then, the day came, Noctis attacked. They freed a lot of us and brought me here, took care of us, gave us a chance to have lives again. So, I felt like I owed them something in return, and offered to go back to Ophir as a spy. Good thing, too. Otherwise, who would have torn you out of Victor's grip and brought you back here?
You always been alone? Or never had anyone you cared about?
You mean guys? Why? You the jealous type, Zach? Afraid of some competition? Scared you won't measure up? There was one guy, Nick. I was only 10, but I was head over heels for him. He died in the rehab camp after we were all deported around the same time, though. Other than him, couple flings here and there, but nothing much more serious than that. You asking because you heard the rumors in Ophir that I'd sleep with anyone wearing a medal?
No, I was just...
I did what I had to do, Zach. To do my job. Never cared about those guys. That's the truth.
You just did what you had to do. You miss making music?
I miss performing. I mean, I still sing for myself here and there, write new lyrics when I feel inspired. But the moments I shared with my audience, it was so intense when I felt everyone humming with me.
How about you sing for me?
Maybe another time. But I'd love to. There's something intimate in sharing your art, like sharing your soul. It's why I feel like music can unite people across corporations, on opposite sides of wars or causes. It's simply beautiful. And in between the notes, our differences seem to disappear. The second all this ends, I'll get back to it. It's what I was born for, and I'm not one to deny destiny.
Zachariah, you look good. Better than I. As if that was hard to accomplish.
What do you know about the exchange?
I am not really into tourism, you know. I think that it is better to ask someone else if you are looking for specific information on a neighborhood. All I can say is that back when I used to go there, it was a commercial neighborhood.
What can you tell me about the slums?
That's where the true Ophir is. That's where I have my clinic, you know. Of course, you know. I love that neighborhood. It's very lively, and you can find everything a poor doctor needs. Bars, patients.
I can see your interests are very specific.
You're not going to lecture me knowing that you yourself take focus drugs and other crap regularly. And it's too late at my age, anyway.
What do you know about the source?
Bah! What do you want me to say? You know the place better than I think. That's where the political centers are. Your barracks, the Technomancer's chapel, and all those buildings that are our corporation's pride. It is quite a cold place. I must say that it's not my favorite neighborhood. You feel tiny there.
How long have you known Amelia?
Since she was a kid. She was quite a cute child, yet so agitated. She's actually no different. She is still agitated and doesn't realize the risks she takes. Mark was more cautious. I really hope that she'll become more careful. I would be very sad if something happened to her. Sometimes I have the feeling that she thinks I'm a tiresome old man. It would be a problem. I mean, I'm not that annoying, am I?
What do you think of Andrew?
He looks like you. He has a lot of talent, you know. It is too bad that he is bitter. He makes me think of your master. What was his name again? Ah, yes, Sean. It sounds like he's after the whole planet. It is a pity for such a young man.
Do you like Niesha?
Yes, I like that little one. First, because she saved your life, but then because she's a charming young woman. Very bright. I really wonder why she spends so much energy on that lost city. I am sure that she could have had a wonderful future with us. Even though you have to recognize that Abundance's spies are much less pleasant. Just the thought of that awful Victor.
What do you think of Phobos?
He's an interesting character, no doubt about that. He shows great intelligence, which shows that mutation doesn't affect cerebral faculties, at least the first generation. And to a certain extent, I understand his desire to improve the mutants' living conditions. We are terribly unfair to them, that's for sure. They are sick, and instead of helping them, we treat them like slaves. However, I think that he is going a little too far with his mutant nation story. I don't see why they should create a mutant nation on its own. He should instead make people within the corporations think differently.
Tell me more about your friend, Mark Reacher.
I don't really like to stir up old memories about him, his disappearance. I miss him, you know. He really was a very good friend. We met when we were young. I was researching animal mutations. But, of course, I didn't have a specimen in town. My professor introduced me to a young Mark Reacher who had a promising future. He took me hunting. It was amazing. There were so many things to discover out there. It was the first time that I went out, whereas Mark had already been exploring the canyons with his mother since his early years. The shark was enormous. I wanted to get out of the rover all the time and run after a beast or collect a plant specimen. Mark would obviously prevent me from doing so. It was funny. He was an adventurer, but he was, in the end, more reasonable than the naive scientist that I was. And it remained like that until he went missing. Alas.